Imagine a parched sunrise painting the endless plain of the American West in shades of gold and rust. What if I told you that, under the dusty ties of the Western Railway roadbed, at the edge of civilization, laborers in the waning years of the 19th century stumbled upon something utterly inexplicable? Hundreds of faded train tickets, each stamped for journeys from Tianjin to Shanghai and from New York's Grand Central to Chicago, were discovered buried in sand and gravel. Remarkably, every ticket displayed a matching serial number, yet no passenger logs, no manifest, no records exist to explain who ever boarded those trains, no names, no voyages, only brittle paper ghosts whispering of an international network unaccounted for in any official archive. Was this a clue to a vast smuggling operation spanning continents, or a series of clandestine contracts in some forgotten cult ritual? Today, we peel back layers of dust-choked archives and silent ledger books to chase the trail of these missing tickets. In the next 90 seconds, we will confront the first shocking evidence, hear the wild theories that sprung up among stunned historians, and ask the question that drives our quest: what secrets are hiding beneath these sunburned rails? So, stick around, because the truth may be stranger than any legend you've ever heard. Stay curious. Get ready. And so we turn back the clock to the roaring Gilded Age of 1898, when America's wild heart beat strongest along the transcontinental railway. Picture a dusty frontier camp stretching for miles across the Wyoming plains, canvas tents flapping in prairie winds, blacksmiths hammering iron rails hotter than midday sun, and crews of weary laborers carving a steel path to the Pacific. Newspapers blared headlines like "Westward Rails Open New Horizons" in oversized type, while local broadsides cheekily warned, "Don't lose your lunch pail or your head." Imagine the crew: Chinese immigrants, Irish work gangs, and displaced Midwesterners, working shoulder to shoulder, their faces streaked with coal dust and determination. They shoveled gravel by daylight and slept under a quilt of stars, trading jokes in broken English, Cantonese, and Gaelic about which rail would outlast its next washout. Some yelled that the rails would link New York and San Francisco so tightly you could post a letter in one city and pick up the reply in the other by sundown. Others swore they heard owls hooting in Morse code after midnight. Now our mystery springs to life when an aging foreman named Jacob, Mapping Jack O'Neill, brushed aside a draped tarp to reveal a battered wooden crate. Inside lay hundreds of train tickets, their edges curled as if they'd survived a prairie fire. Each ticket bore a serial number matching one from a ticket book in New York and another from a book in Tianjin, China. Yet no passenger logs tied to those numbers exist in any Union archive or shipping manifest. It was as if the tickets attended the journey all by themselves. Local papers rushed to print wild theories. "Cult of the Iron Rails?" asked the Casper Chronicle, while the Salt Lake Sentinel mused, "Does the East trade souls for swift passage?" Oral rumors rippled through railroad camps along the line. Some claimed the tickets were talismans, others that they were contracts for fate itself, exchanged under lantern light in secret railway shrines. Photographs from the era capture solemn crews posing beside steam engines, pockets overflowing with tobacco, and these mysterious slips of paper. In some images, you can almost see them clutching dreams of fortune and whispers of something darker. As the story spread from tent to tent, every shovelful of gravel seemed to echo with unanswered questions. Who issued these tickets, and why were no names recorded? Were they part of a sprawling smuggling network stretching halfway around the globe, or merely the remnants of an obscure religious rite among displaced workers far from home? In tracing their origin, we must piece together the social tensions of the time: rising industrial fortunes, exploited laborers, and the hush of secrets kept by those with the power to bury the truth. With our groundwork laid, we dive deeper into the tangled web of clues, voices, and ledgers that underpin the missing tickets enigma. Let's rewind to that fateful night when Jacob Mapping Jack O'Neill first exposed the tickets hidden under 5 tons of gravel. The first clue lies in the tickets themselves, hundreds of them neatly stacked, each stamped for journeys from Tianjin to Seattle and from New York to Omaha, yet bearing serial numbers matching ledger fragments long deemed lost in the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Under the flickering glow of an oil lamp, Jack noticed subtle scorch marks curling along the edges of some tickets as if they had survived an inferno or emerged from a clandestine ritual by lantern light. Each stub was torn with surgical precision, as though by someone who knew exactly where to make the cut. Not a single crumb of coal dust marred the paper, an oddity in a coal-dusted rail yard, suggesting these tickets had been carefully cleaned or consecrated before burial. These brittle slips seemed to whisper of fate-binding contracts or secret freight passes unknown to any official ledger, setting historians ablaze with theories. Fast forward 1 month, our next clue emerged from the back of a hidden tin box stashed in an abandoned maintenance shed. Inside lay a weathered leather-bound journal belonging to Wei Li Chen, a laborer whose precise handwriting traced complex diagrams and cryptic symbols onto torn ticket stubs. That puzzle forms our next clue: calligraphic marks, reminiscent of ancient seal script interspersed with railway coordinate notations. For weeks, codebreakers and sinologists debated whether these were instructions for a secret smuggling route or pages from a lost cult ledger. One faded entry reads, "When the dragon's tail kisses the river's bend, the ticket demands its soul." Impossibly poetic for a workman's journal, yet chilling in its implication. These tickets might be sacramental keys to an organization operating in shadows. Then came the third clue. In the dead of night, long after the rails fell silent, local ranchers reported hearing a phantom steam whistle where no engine existed. Eyewitness Bluegrass Bill swore he felt the ground tremble as invisible rails rattled beneath his horse's hooves. On stormy evenings, the whistle's echo would sweep across the prairie, rising and falling like a ghostly hymn. Some claimed they saw a crescent glow of a headlight flickering just above the tracks, then vanish into thin air before it could touch ground. Dismissed by railroad bosses as folklore, these eerie sounds were later matched to a 19th century Baldwin locomotive whistle pitch, recorded on a phonograph cylinder uncovered in a Denver antique shop. But the most unsettling revelation arrived with our final clue. Buried beneath the rails at milepost 212, archaeologists unearthed a corroded tin box sealed with wax, stamped in a design of intersecting railway spikes and lunar crescents. Inside was a brittle diary belonging to Mary Ming Jiang, one of the few documented female workers who braved prejudice to earn her wages. Her last entries describe midnight gatherings where she and 4 companions, 2 Chinese lantern tenders and 2 Irish trackmen, exchanged tickets in hushed tones. Mary wrote, "We trade our stubs for favors owed, but each trade chisels at our memory until only the paper remembers us." In the margin, a crude map points to a remote canyon where ticket fragments litter the bed of a dried-up creek, long since washed away by floods. When modern explorers visited that site, they found paper scraps arranged in patterns reminiscent of a ritual circle. Satellite imagery even shows faint depressions in the earth, as if someone carved a giant compass rose to guide unseen forces. Was this an underground smuggling hub for contraband, an arcane rite, or desperate bartering born of poverty? Each clue, the scorched tickets, the cryptic journal, the phantom whistle, the ghostly diary, feels like a breadcrumb leading us deeper into a labyrinth where every answer births new questions. So what does it all mean? Stay tuned as we move from revelation to investigation and try to untangle fact from folklore in our next chapter. Now that we've uncovered the tantalizing clues, it's time to don our investigative hats and separate fact from folklore. First, we dove into archival vaults in Cheyenne and Chicago, unearthing original ticket stubs, maintenance ledgers, and period newspaper clippings. The Denver Daily Record's 1898 issue actually mentions a Mr. O'Neill's curious find, yet later editions quietly omit the reference, as if someone insisted on erasing the story. Mining Bureau reports list a sudden halt in passenger logging around milepost 212, citing administrative reorganization, a bureaucratic euphemism that smells of cover-up. Even the official Chicago ticketing office logs have faint erasures next to the very serial numbers we found under the Wyoming roadbed. These archival oddities suggest more than sloppy bookkeeping. They hint at deliberate redaction of data that might expose an illicit network or an embarrassing scandal. Next, we consulted experts who could speak in both academic rigor and plain English. Dr. Elaine Marsh, a railroad historian, explains that scorch marks on paper can result from industrial incineration, but only if the tickets were heated above 450 degrees Fahrenheit, far hotter than any routine boiler fire in a Western rail yard. Archaeologist Dr. Luis Moreno points out that ceremonial scorch cleaning of documents has roots in various secret societies from late Qing China, raising the possibility that those tickets were consecrated before use. Both experts stress that while extreme heat could sanitize paper, it would also render it brittle, precisely what we observe. Meanwhile, digital forensics specialists applied multispectral imaging to the faded ink, revealing faint security printing consistent with mid-19th century Tianjin ticket presses. In other words, someone went to great lengths, both ceremonial and technical, to produce and then conceal these tickets. Turning to folk tales, local elders and ranch hands spin a different yarn. According to Bluegrass Bill's great niece, her grandfather believed the tickets functioned as soul vouchers. You handed in your stub at a midnight gathering in exchange for an unspoken favor from the railway phantom. One storyteller swears the ceremony took place in an abandoned culvert beneath the tracks, where hooded figures traded tickets in strict numerical order. Another claims that each exchange bound the ticket holder to the phantom engine. "That's why only night shift miners vanished," the elder whispered. "They were the ones who answered the whistle at midnight." While these tales strain credulity, they persist in every campfire retelling, suggesting a deeply rooted cultural echo, whether literal or symbolic, of a community grappling with inexplicable loss. So how do we reconcile the bureaucratic brush-offs, expert testimony, and colorful oral history? One plausible inference places this mystery at the intersection of clandestine smuggling and fringe spiritual practice. The ticket's high-temperature treatment could have served both to authenticate them for a secret cargo operation and to ritually purify them for a binding contract among isolated workers. Yet the absence of passenger manifest points to an operation beyond mere freight, something more personal, perhaps even transactional in a metaphysical sense. Imagine short-lived alliances among laborers desperate for leverage in a world where your name hardly mattered. Still, mainstream historians caution against attributing agency to supernatural forces. They argue this was likely an elaborate smuggling network, trading contraband and in-kind services among immigrant communities, using ritualized ticket exchanges as proof of debt and trust. Picture this hypothetical dramatic scene. A lone engineer rigs a homemade electromagnetic detector beneath a milepost marker. As she sweeps the device, the coil crackles, then dies in a sudden blackout. Her cap lamp flickers out, plunging her into complete darkness. When her light sputters back on, the snout of a Baldwin locomotive casts a pale glow a dozen feet away, yet no train stands on the rails. She bolts, for good reason. Whether that encounter was engineered misdirection by smugglers or a vivid hallucination born of exhaustion, it underscores how the line between reality and myth blurs among the tracks. At the end of the day, we chart two dominant theories: a covert logistics network that harnessed ritual to cement trust among vulnerable laborers, or a genuine cult-like pact that traded tickets for favors beyond the material world. Both explanations leave unanswered questions. Who coordinated these exchanges? Why seal records with institutional erasures? And what truly lies at the heart of this phantom railway? Our next segment will weigh modern technology against legend and ask, can science finally exorcise this ghost from the rails? We travel from charred ticket stubs hidden under sun-bleached rails to mysterious diaries and ghostly whistles on empty prairies. The most plausible explanation is that brutal smuggling was intertwined with ritualized bonds between laborers. Organizers heated these tickets until they were gray and brittle and traded them in midnight rituals, building a secret network that spanned continents. Yet at every charred edge there was a hint of some metaphysical transaction, paper in exchange for fate. Whatever the truth, these missing tickets remind us that history often buries its deepest secrets where the dust settles and silence prevails. Perhaps the legacy of these ghost tickets is more than just smuggled contraband or quietly passed rituals, but a testament to the unexpected ways human hopes and fears can be inscribed in the world. Whether you lean toward the academic theory of underground creditors or the more seductive theory of fateful contracts, the railroads remain silent, inspiring a new generation to explore deeper. In the next episode, we travel to the banks of the Mississippi River to uncover the Blackwater Monster rumor. If you've heard other rumors about missing contracts or have your own thoughts on this Western Railroad mystery, leave a comment below. Your insights may lead to the next clue. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with other history seekers. Until next time.